Hey guys, what's up? This is Koganinja, and I'm here with another video, so let's get into it right now. In this video, I am going to be talking to you about my background as a dice controller, player, and dice control teacher. And it is my hope that with the information that I'm going to tell you about here in this video, that you will finally make the decision to either come and train with me in person at one of my seminars, or do a video conferencing session with me, or do a one-on-one with me here in Las Vegas, and learn so that you can learn my Shinobi Master level dice control course, or purchase one of the products that I have. I've got 3 video courses that are just absolutely fantastic. And so I'm hoping that with me sharing this information with you, that you will decide to follow my lead and learn from me, and allow me to be your coach, your mentor, whatever it is, however you want to look at it. So I'm hoping that with the information that I'm going to provide here, that you will make the jump to want to come and train with me, or to train with one of my video products. Now let's get into my background. My background in dice control is basically like this. It started 8 years ago, roughly 8 years ago, and I used to have a business partner where we were doing another type of business, and he was a big-time gambler, specifically craps. And I'm not a gambler by nature. I've never been a gambler by nature. So when I moved to Las Vegas, I never gambled at all. I avoided the casinos. I mean, I would go to the casinos, but I would avoid all the slot machines and the craps tables and all of that stuff. It was just something that never appealed to me. Gambling never appealed to me. And I always told myself, if I ever get into gambling, it's because I have an edge over the casinos. I have some kind of advantage over the casinos. Well, he ended up one day when we had started our business, and about 3 months into starting our business, we had been working 12, 16-hour days. It was crazy, working every day, trying to get this business going. Well, one weekend, we were just so burnt out, and he came into the office. He's like, you know what? Let's close shop for the weekend. We're going to go out and we're going to gamble. I'm going to teach you how to gamble. I'm like, but I'm not a gambler. And he goes, well, you're going to learn. I'm going to teach you. And I said, all right. And we ended up, closing the business for the weekend, and we took off and basically went gambling for 3 days, essentially, is what we did. And we ended up at one of the casinos, and of course, we did the slot machines, and then we did the blackjack, and then we did the roulette. And all that was fun, and he was, showing me this, telling me, okay, do this, split, in the blackjack, split that, do this, bet that. And I was liking it. I was having fun with it, and made a little bit of money off of blackjack. Made like $175 off of blackjack. That was pretty fun. I never done that before. And then he's like, all right, man, now it's time to really get into it. Let's go. Let me show you the game that I love so much, the game that I grew up with. And he takes me over to the craps table, and we get into it. And literally within 20 minutes, I realized I hated the game. I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. It was frustrating. And that's the thing about me. If I come up to something, either, be a computer program or anything, and I can't learn it and it makes me feel stupid, I get really upset about it, and I tend to dislike it really, really fast. And that's what craps did to me. It made me feel stupid, and I didn't like it. So I basically walked away from it while he was playing. And he was like, no, man, you got to give it a chance and da 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 da. So I walked away for, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I came back and he said, let's try this again. And he started showing me, and that basically went on for 3 days. And I had come to the conclusion that I hated craps and I didn't want anything to do with it. It was just something that I totally despised. I didn't like it. It frustrated the hell out of me, and it just made me feel stupid. I didn't like it. So I completely forgot about it in that sense. I just was like, I'm done with this. I don't want to learn anything about it. Well, over the from that point forward, roughly a period of 4 months, I saw my friend go through an extraordinarily terrible losing streak. He lost thousands and thousands of dollars over a period of 4 months, and it was horrible. I mean, it got so bad that I saw him lose, $4,000 in a matter of like 20 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. It was horrible. And it just continued that way. Well, I ended up telling him, well, why? I mean, if you're not, and I kept telling him, you just need to quit playing this. But he's like, no, I can't. I'm addicted to it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, if you're not going to stop, at least, learn a technique to make you so you can get a little edge on the casino. And I had remembered watching the famous Breaking Vegas documentary on History Channel about, this guy that could throw the dice with a special technique. And I told my friend, I said, you should learn that technique. And he's like, well, if you can find it or buy it or whatever, I'll learn it. Well, I ended up over the next few weeks, found a copy of the video and the DVDs and purchased them. And then I ended up showing him the DVDs, and he's like, oh man, this is exactly what I do. And then further on down the tapes, he was like, no, this crap doesn't work. He basically gave it 2 hours worth of his time, and they just said, no, this would never work. He just gave up completely on it. And then that was it. I took the videos and the DVDs and I put them up on my shelf, and that was the end of that. He just basically said, screw it. That's a bunch of fallacy. It's a bunch of hogwash, and it doesn't work. So anyway, so what happened was I ended up, over the next period of few weeks, didn't have anything to do. And I ended up was just kicking back in my room, and there was literally nothing to do. And I was like, man, I'm so bored. I got to do something. And so I ended up looking up on the countertop there. I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch a movie or something. And I was going through my DVDs and trying to pick out one that I liked. And sure enough, that DVD set, the Dice Control DVD set, was on the end there. And so I pulled it off. I said, you know what? I'm gonna look at this thing again. And I put it on and I started watching it. And something told me, just pick up the dice and start throwing again. And so I ended up grabbing the dice that I had off of my desk, and because I always had, I still had the dice from when we had first tried out the tape, the DVDs. And so I ended up consistently throwing into a pillow. And I was like, you know what, maybe this does work. Maybe there is something to it. And so I ended up continuously decided to keep throwing. And I was like, maybe there is something to this. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. What I ended up doing was I decided, I want to do something with YouTube. I'd like to get on YouTube, make some videos, do something. And this, like I said, man, this was like 8 years ago. And I was like, I'd like to do something with YouTube. And I didn't have a niche. I didn't have anything. I didn't have an idea for YouTube, but I know I wanted to do something with YouTube. What ended up happening was I decided, you know what? Why don't I give it the true college try with this dice control thing and record my process, my progression, and and let me find out through a video diary if dice control really does work. But the idea was that I would give it a 100% honest college try. And if it was going to work, I was going to tell the world about it. And if it didn't work, I was going to tell the world about it. And because at the time, I had did a little bit of research. There was lots of videos saying that dice control was a scam, that it was a fake, and that it was just a scammer's way of making money, the whole 9 yards. And then I was like, I found my thing, my story that I'm going to tell for YouTube. And that was give dice control an honest to God college try, devote a whole year of your life to it, and then do a video blog and figure out and let the results speak for themselves. That was what I ended up deciding I was going to do. Needless to say, I ended up doing this. Couple of weeks go by, and at this point, my business partner, we had been in business already for like 5 months at this point. He'd come to the office and told me, "Hey man, I'm sorry, but we have to shut down the business." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, I have to go back to Tennessee, and my dad is very, very sick, and I need to comfort him and try to get him back, try to get him well again. He needs a caretaker." And my ex-business partner had a background in that field, caring for people, being an orderly, all of that. And so he was like, "I've got to leave. We got to shut everything down." And so basically, we ended up shutting everything down, and he left. Well, we were shutting everything down, and we were moving stuff out of the apartment that we were living at, because we were both roommates at the time. We had the business, the roommate. We were roommates, and then we also had an office. So we were moving all of this stuff out of the office. We're shutting that down, and then we were moving all of the stuff out of the apartment because the lease had come up, and I had to do some stuff too. I said, I figured, what? Let me just go back to my hometown for a little while, and then regroup, and then I'll come back out to Vegas. And so that was the plan. Well, literally the last day that we were moving stuff out of the apartment, he was leaving that day. Literally, the last piece of furniture we were moving out of the apartment, I slipped and broke my ankle, which was the third time I had broken my ankle over a period of like 15 years. So my ankle swelled up to a cantaloupe. I mean, literally that size, purple, black, and blue. I didn't even go to the doctor because I knew that what they were going to tell me, they were just going to put a cast on it, and I didn't want to have a cast on it. So I ended up calling a friend. He was already on the road out of town, and he had to take off. And so I was like, fine. And I'm literally hobbling around. My ankle was broken. I called a friend. He came and picked me up. We went and got crutches, bandages, ice, all of that. And I basically had no place to stay. I ended up calling around, and a buddy of mine said, "Hey, well, I've got 3 bedrooms. Just come over to my place and just hang out until you can get better, and then you can go back to Texas for a little while, back home." And I said, "All right." So I ended up staying over at his place, and about 2 weeks into it, he's like, "You know what, man, if you want to move in, just move in." And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I ended up staying there. While I was recovering, I ended up practicing dice control, and I practiced dice control literally straight for 9 months every single day. Practiced 4 to 6 hours a day, sometimes up to 8 hours a day every single day, and I did that for 9 months. Needless to say, I was slowly posting videos up on YouTube, and at that point I was already walking again. By the time I put up my first video, I was already walking again. My ankle already had gotten back to normal. I was recuperating my ankle. What I had realized what I had realized 3 months into my practicing was that dice control worked. I came to the conclusion that dice control worked. So my idea and my niche for YouTube completely changed. I was just gonna say, you know what, here it is. And I literally changed my whole story on the dice control because I knew that it worked. It was completely solidified in my mind because I went from not being able to throw, 3 times without 7ing out up being able to throw into the 20s consistently 3 months into it. So I knew then and there that it worked. So I started putting videos up on YouTube, letting people kind of let people know what I was doing. And that's all it was ever going to be. It was just going to be me putting up some videos, and that would be the end of it, and people could decide for themselves. But I was just letting people know that I found this really cool thing called dice control. I was doing it, I was loving it, and I was having a great time with it. And if anybody wanted to do it, that they were more than welcome to do it. What ended up happening at that point was I ended up getting a text, a private message from somebody on YouTube. And he basically told me, he's like, hey, I'm coming into Las Vegas. I want you to train me. And I was like, well, I don't train people. I'm not a teacher. He goes, yeah, you are. I said, no, I'm not. He's like, yeah, you are. I said, no, man, I'm not a teacher. And he goes, yeah, you're a teacher because I'm going to give you money to teach me. And I was like, but I don't have a curriculum. He goes, yeah, I know, but that's okay. I'm going to come into town. I'm going to give you some money, and you're going to train me and tell me what you know. And I said, but I don't really know anything. And he said, yeah, you do. For $500, you know something. And I was like, okay. And this was, at that point, it was already, I was probably 7 months, 8 months into, I was like seven months into my practicing. And I had never played in a casino. I had never laid a real bet on a casino table. Needless to say, this guy comes to town. He wants to hang out with me for 2 days. He gives me $500. I teach him for 2 days. He's completely blown away. He's like, you know what, man, I've been around dice control. I didn't tell you this, but I've been around dice control for quite a while now, like 5 years. And I've trained with people, a couple of guys here in Vegas, and I've taken some classes. And I can tell you that everything that I learned from you in the last 2 days, I learned more from you than I did with those guys. And I actually paid money to go to these guys, and I learned more from you. And you've only been doing this for 7 months. And I was absolutely floored when he told me this. Honest to God truth, that actually happened. And he's like, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. You need to be teaching people how to do this. You need to be professionally training people how to do this because you are amazing at what you do. Again, honest to God truth, when he told me that, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So needless to say, I ended up, he left. He was very happy with what I taught him. And at that point, I was still not confident enough in what I knew. So I had put the word out. On a forum, a dice control forum. I can't remember exactly which one it was. That I was looking for people to hang out with, not to train with, just people to hang out with and go down to the casinos. Well, I ended up reaching out to a guy, and he never got back to me. And then I reached, and he was a guy here in town, and I tried to reach out to him. He never got back to me. And then I reached out to another guy who was supposedly in town, and he got back to me immediately. And I ended up training with him. I ended up meeting up with him, and well, he called me because I had left him my number in the email, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? What's your name?" And he started giving me like the drill sergeant speak, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "I'm just looking for people to go. I'm not looking for an instructor. I'm just looking for people to hang out with." And so he started asking me all these questions: how long you've been playing, how long you've been shooting, what books have you read, how long you've been practicing, all this stuff. And he was kind of very abrupt and very drill sergeant-y with me. And he's like, "Well, you want to learn some stuff? Come down to this casino on this day, and I'll be there, and you can show me what you got, and we'll go from there." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And so I hung up the phone that day. I met him. A few days come along, and I ended up meeting him out in the casino. And sure enough, he knew what he was talking about. I was really impressed with this guy, really blown away with this guy. And so I ended up, and this was 9 months into it at this point. I had already had practice for 9 months. And I ended up, for the first time ever, gambling. I had some money with me, and he's, "All right, man, let's see what you got. Let's go to the table." And we went over to the table, and I laid down my bet, and at 5 times and there was nobody there, it was just me and him. And I laid down my bet, and I couldn't get anything. I couldn't get past 2 before 7ing out. And it would 0.7 out, 0.7 out, 0.7 out, 0.7. It was horrible. Did that like 5 times. And then he looked at me and he's like, "What set are you using?" And I said, "I think it's the 2V." And he goes, "Change that. Try the 3V." So I changed the 3V, and boom, sure enough, 31 rolls later. Unbelievable. And so we got off the table. We made some money. And he's like, "All right, man, that was awesome. That was really good. You want to learn some more? Come back next week." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And that was it. The whole thing lasted like 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And I was blown away because this guy really knew what he was talking about. So I left, and the next day I wake up and I get a phone call, and it's him. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" I said, "I'm not doing anything." He said, "Meet me at this address." I said, "Okay." And meet me in an hour. I said, "All right, cool." So I went over to this address he had given me, and sure enough, I opened the door, and there's this guy that opens the door, and I don't recognize who he is. And he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He calls me by my name, and I walk in, and sure enough, I see my buddy, my friend, who the drill sergeant. He's like, "Hey, come on in." I was like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" And so come to find out that the guy that answered the door was the first guy that I had reached out to that never got back to me. Apparently they knew each other. I didn't know that. So it was like a double whammy, which was really cool. So I got to hang out with both of these guys. And I ended up, and the drill sergeant was like, "All right, man, show him your shot. Let's see what you got. Show this guy what you got." And so I started showing them, and they were blown away. They were like, "Oh my God, your shot is awesome." And I was like, "How long you guys been playing?" He goes, "Oh, we've been playing for a long time. We've done all the classes, all the courses, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "You're awesome. Like, you're really good at this." So yeah, I was really, really, really taken back, really blown away. And so from that point forward, they had given me so much encouragement and so much positivity that they were like, "Man, yeah." And I had told them that I had trained this guy, and because I was a newbie, I was so like new at the time, so green. He's like, "Oh, well, if you want to teach, man, you should be teaching. Go for it, man. You're really good. Just get some more, get some more casino time under your belt." And I said, "Okay, cool." And that's basically what I did. I went out and I started playing all the time. Come to find out, these guys were helping me along the way. They were kind of like my coaches and mentors. And I learned a lot from these guys. It was awesome. And so I ended up basically, people started reaching out to me. "Hey, let's hang out, da da da." And I was like, "Well, I don't really hang out anymore. I don't do free meetups anymore. I teach." "Okay, how much do you charge?" And I started really small, and I literally worked my way up. I went from like, I think I started like at $300, and then just all the way up to where I'm at now. And it was awesome. That's how I became a teacher. I ended up literally getting thrown. I literally got pushed into it. And, by the first guy, but he gave me so much positive encouragement. I was like, you know what? I should be doing this. And when I was out, earning my stripes, I was, banging out rolls, massive benders, 30 rolls, 40 rolls, 50 rolls, consistently, just breaking all the things that everyone said you couldn't do with the Paradise. I was doing it. I was just blowing all that stuff out of the water. I was doing stuff that guys that had met up with me said if I didn't see it with my own eyes and you had told me, I would have never believed it. That happened like 3 or 4 times with different incidents that happened when I was earning my stripes, basically. So now what I do now is I teach. I'm still a player, but I teach, and that's something I love to do. I like to pass on to my students what I know, because my superpower basically is I can teach people how to shoot amazingly well. I have an amazing knack for it. And I'm very, very happy about it. And that's what I do. A player, I'm a teacher. And so, yeah, that's awesome. And that's basically how I started my journey into being, going from a player to a teacher. And that's basically the whole thing in a nutshell. Now, if you want to come out and train with me, all the information will be at my website. You can check it out. It's www.koganinjadicecontrol.com. And you can reach out to me, or you can just email me directly at koganinja777@yahoo.com. And I will send you the information. And we're off to the races if you decide you want to, train with me and learn the techniques that I've created. And it's awesome. We're off to the races. I want to thank everybody that's ever bought anything from me, that have followed my videos, have learned from me. I appreciate it. All my views. Thank you so much. It's awesome. It warms my heart when I get private messages or comments on my website saying, hey man, I just won this amount of money. It's awesome. I really, really love it. So there you go, guys. That's my background. That's my story. That's how I started. And, that is where I'm at now. I'm player, teacher, and I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. So there you go, guys. And so have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.